welcome to highlights of the 1992 Belgian Grand Prix, brought to you by Mircoprose and GP2Joey. It's the 12th round of this epic season already, and we're deep in the heart of the Ardenne and the most majestic of all the circuits in the world, the 4-mile picturesque Spa-Francorchamps. Ferrari's Ayrton Senna was the surprise winner last time out in Hungary after holding off a charging Martin Brundle, who threw the win away with a mistake whilst leading himself. And this weekend sees the return of Nigel Mansell, back from his one-race ban. The Briton still leads the Drivers' Championship after nearest rivals Joey Davies and Michael Schumacher both retired their McLarens in Hungary, and Senna's win now sees the Brazilian only 18 points adrift in fourth. It's all to play for in the Constructors' Championship after McLaren's Hungarian nightmare and Damon Hill's maiden podium for Williams brings the two rivals now equal on points, with Ferrari in third place. The big news in the lead-up to the weekend was Briton confirming Briton Johnny Herbert would be leaving the team at the end of the year, whilst defending champ Davies was allegedly spotted at Ferrari's headquarters in Maranello. News which didn't worry McLaren boss Ron Dennis, who remained sure a new deal with the Briton would be signed shortly. Williams then confirmed they were in talks with both Senna and Mansell for next year, and even a possible return for Davies, whilst incoming boss Peter Sauber remained confident he would be having Schumacher in one of his cars. The German's manager Willy Weber then insisted current employer McLaren give his man number one status for 93, or he would be walking. It's no secret that several teams are facing uncertain futures in the sport, so Friday morning's pre-qualifying session was an especially important one, as the 18 drivers fought for only 6 spots to progress into race qualification. But in the end, it was the LaRousse of Eric Bernard who ran out the fastest, ahead of teammate Alessandro Zanardi, whilst there was disaster down at BMS Dallara after Christian Fittipaldi failed to set a lap in time before the checkered flag flew. Joining LaRousse in progressing through to race qualification were Von Mittal and a stunned Brabham, both of whom needed a result to keep any hopes of their survival alive, whilst the others were forced to head home early. Fresh from his debut visit to the podium last time out in Hungary, Damon Hill was immediately on the pace for Williams, despite an early spin in Friday afternoon's first qualifying session, whilst the likes of Senna, Schumacher and Davies especially struggled with the setup of their cars. Brundle impressed once more in the Benetton, but all, however, were trounced by the returning Mansell, who easily claimed provisional pole on his return to action for Williams, beating teammate Hill by a tenth of a second, with both men over a second ahead of the rest, courtesy of their car upgrades and an all-new Renault V10 engine. Saturday saw higher temperatures and for the majority of the top 10 runners slower lap times, all bar Davies, who along with his McLaren engineers had worked all night on improving his setup, and duly went on to claim an impressive third on the grid, being only 9th fastest on Friday and over 2 seconds off the pace. Still believing the title chase is not to be given up yet, Ferrari brought their planned upgrade package forward from Monza, but Senna continued to struggle on his way to 4th, ahead of Brundle and Schumacher in 5th and 6th. Despite failing to improve on their Friday times, both Williams drivers remained unchallenged at the top, and so it was Mansell who duly claimed his 11th pole position in 12 races, whilst at the back, the dream for Brabham was already over, with Roberto Moreno and Jean-Marc Gounon both failing to qualify. Afterwards, a delighted Mansell was quick to focus on finishing the job of winning on Sunday, whilst teammate Hill praised the efforts of the returnee and hoped to be joining him on the podium. Davies meantime praised his McLaren team and warned Mansell he would be going for the win himself, whilst Senna hoped for improved performance in the race and fancied his chances of getting a second win of the year. So it's the two Williamses of Nigel Mansell and Damon Hill on the front row, with Joey Davies and Ayrton Senna on row 2. Row 3 is Martin Brundle and Michael Schumacher. Row 4 is Alain Prost and Johnny Herbert. Row 5 is Michael Andretti and Jean Alesi. Row 6 is the two Joests of Riccardo Patrese and Gerhard Berger. Row 7 is Mika Hakkinen and Alessandro Zanardi. Row 8 is Eric Bernard and Carl Wendlinger. Row 9 is Derek Warwick and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Row 10 is Martin Brundle and JJ Leto. Row 11 is Gianni Morbidelli and Andrea De Cesaris. Row 12 is Pierluigi Martini and Satoru Nakajima. And at the back it's Stefano Modena and Olivier Griard. The red lights come on, the engine revs rise, and the 1992 Belgian Grand Prix is go, go, go! It's a good start from the two Williams with Mansell taking the inside line. Damon Hill's on the outside as they come under braking for La Source, but Davies in the McLaren. Look at that, he locks up the front, but Davies takes the lead as Damon Hill tries to come through on the inside. As they thunder out of La Source for the first time, it's Davies ahead of Hill, with Senna up to third, and Mansell's in fourth. So Mansell's gone from first to second to third to fourth, as they come thundering down towards Eau Rouge for the first time. It's Davies ahead of Hill, with Senna in third, and the McLaren has got his wing mirrors absolutely full of the Williams of Damon Hill in second place. He's only a few tenths behind him as they come down towards Lacoum for the first time. It's Davies taking the inside line. Hill's going to try and go around the outside, but he can't do it. It's Davies still holding the lead. It's Davies ahead of Hill with Senna third, and Senna is absolutely going to be trying to see if there's any kind of a gap that he can stick his Ferrari into as Hill looks to do the same on Davies. But Davies just cuts across his countryman. Davies keeps the lead. Fantastic racing. So Davies has jumped into the lead from third on the grid. What a fantastic start from the McLaren driver.
Yes, that's quite exceptional there as Davies heading into Pouhon for the first time.
And Mansell! Mansell runs wide in the Williams and he's off. He's into the gravel. He's into the barriers, and Mansell, has he stalled the engine? Has he stalled it? My goodness me, Mansell is off. And he's out of the Grand Prix now, surely, because Joey Davies is still in the lead with Damon Hill in second place. It's Senna in third. Martin Brundle is up to fourth, and Mansell is out. The marshals have parked his Williams. He's stalled the engine, and Mansell is out. Fantastic development here in Spa. But coming up towards Francorchamps for the first time, as they come thundering through there at over 185 miles an hour, it's still the McLaren Ilmore in the lead. As they come up to the bus stop chicane, the first part has been quite easy to negotiate, but it's the second bump as Mansell, as Damon Hill struggles to pass the McLaren of Joey Davies as they come over the line for the first time, and Hill's got Senna all over the back of him. But Senna can't get through there into La Source, and it's still Joey Davies. But let's have a look at the replay from the start.
Yes, it was initially a very good getaway there from Davies, who's using the traction control system in the McLaren for the first time since the opening Grand Prix in South Africa. So he got away well and then just slung it up the inside of the two Williams, who totally unexpectedly there took the lead. So that was a very good start there from Joey Davies.
And let's have a look at the replay from Mansell. Let's see what happened there, because I think that was just a little bit of over-excitement on his part. He tried to go for the gap and it just wasn't there.
Yes, Senna just completely took the racing line, which he was completely entitled to do there, and he left Mansell with absolutely nowhere to go but straight off into the gravel.
And that's Schumacher! Schumacher's gone off in the other McLaren. So Schumacher's dropped from 5th position, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to have to sit there and see he's going to have to bundle all the way down to the back of the field as we see Häkkinen try and defend off the advances of the LaRusse of Alessandro Zanardi and the two Jordans behind him. And Zanardi pulls out. He's going to try and sneak it up the inside, but he can't get through. Fantastic racing there from Häkkinen and from Zanardi. Those two are certainly future stars. As we look at Martin Brundle in 4th position now, he's trying to close the gap up to the leading 3.
But he's going slowly, so there's obviously some sort of a technical failure there in the Benetton.
My goodness, Martin Brundle is out. It's the second big name. As we look at Damon Hill now closing the gap to Joey Davies in the lead now. It's only half a second as they come up to the bus stop. Once more, Damon Hill, and Davies almost loses it. My goodness me. And Hill goes through. So Damon Hill has taken the lead from Joey Davies. He drops to second, and he's now got his mirrors full of Senna's Ferrari once more. Is Senna going to try and make a move into La Source? Davies is so good under braking, there's absolutely no chance that Senna can get through there.
Yes, I was pretty confident from Joey Davies there that he had that line covered there. As we look at JJ Leto in 15th position, and he's trying to see if he can close the gap up to the two Jordan Ilmores in front of him. And I've got to say, I think that JJ Leto has performed exceptionally well this year, and I'd be very surprised if he isn't in a front-running seat for next year. I think it would be a real travesty if he isn't in at least one of the most decent cars on the grid, because he showed his pace.
And there's Davies in second place, and he's struggling to get power. He's got a transmission problem. My goodness, Davies is out on lap 5. He's retiring from third place. Senna's gone up into second, and Prost is past him, and Tretti's past him, and Johnny Herbert's gone past him. They're all thundering past him, and Davies has pulled up, and he is out of the Grand Prix. My goodness me, Joey Davies is out. So that's Mansell out, Brundle out, and Joey Davies as we look at the Tyrrell of Katsuyama trying to get past the Von Metal there. And Herbert spin! Johnny Herbert spun out of the bus stop chicane.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm pretty sure that he's just clipped one of the curbs there. But Johnny Herbert has gone off in a big way as we look at Andretti and Alain Prost.
And Andretti goes through. So Michael Andretti now, he seems to have found his legs, with some of his rivals having retired. Andretti is up into third position now. And there's the two Joeys of Patrese and Gerhard Berger, with Patrese taking the inside line. So it's Patrese up into fifth position. Berger drops to sixth, with Jean Alesi in seventh, who started 10th. But Michael Andretti started 9th. But Patrase's lost another position, and he's lost out to Berger and Jean Alesi. Has he got some sort of a problem? Jonathan Palmer.
Yes, we're understanding that the Joeys Porsche has got a failure. So you can see there, Patrase's pulling off, and it's some sort of a technical failure.
And Leto's out. So JJ Leto is also out in the footwork. My goodness, he's dropping out, with Michael Schumacher now up into 10th position. He dropped all the way down, but Michael Schumacher has put his foot to the floor, and he's been powering up behind his rivals, and he's overtaken drivers at a fantastic rate of knots. As we look at Ayrton Senna now, he's 2 seconds behind the Williams of Damon Hill, who is in the lead, with Michael Andretti still third, as Eric Bernard's up into 7th, and he almost loses the back end of the Larousse Peugeot.
Yes, he's been driving very well. So is his teammate Zanardi. They've got an updated Peugeot engine this weekend, and it's come as very much a breath of fresh air for the Larousse team, who are still struggling to get out of
And that's Senna! My goodness me, I'm sorry to cut in front of you there, James, but Senna has pulled over. My goodness, he's out of the Grand Prix as well. So Senna is out.
Unbelievable scenes here at Spa. Are we going to see any of the front runners actually finishing the race now? Because that's Ayrton Senna out of the Grand Prix, and that means that Alain Prost is up into third position, with Gerhard Berger in fourth, Jean Alesi in fifth, and Eric Bernard in the Larousse is in sixth position. But I'm pretty sure that Michael Schumacher is going to close the 10-second gap to him, with Häkkinen in eighth position.
And Heinz-Harald Frenzen's in ninth, and it's Mark Brundle in the second, Lotus in 10th position. What a fantastic Grand Prix on lap 13 as we ride on board with the Ligier of Alain Prost, trying to close up the gap on Andretti. And we're on board with Michael Andretti now as he comes into the bus stop chicane. He's through the first part, which is the most tricky. He's through the second, through the right and the left. He powers through the left-hand key, and he's across the line. As we see Damon Hill coming up to the two back markers. Hill with a 7.7 second lead. He's just got to take his time trying to negotiate his way around them. And he's out! He's hit the Tyrrell, and Damon Hill is out. Goodness me. Damon Hill has crashed his Williams into the back of the Tyrrell, and he is out of the race. My goodness me, as Andretti goes through. So Michael Andretti is now the race leader. That's both Williams is out, Mansell is out on the opening lap, and now Damon Hill has lost the lead. He's out of the Grand Prix, and Schumacher's up into sixth position, as we see Johnny Herbert moving up into 10th place. And there's the Minardi. That's Gianni Morbidelli, with Derek Warwick passing him. So Derek Warwick has moved up. And there's Alain Prost, as Andretti's into the pits, Jonathan Palmer.
Yes, the race leader's into the pits.
And I'm sorry, I've got to cut across you because Schumacher's on. He's had some sort of a failure in the McLaren, and he's slammed into the barriers.
Yes, that sounded very much to me as if he might have had a stuck throttle there. I hope the German's okay there, because that was a hell of a collision with the barrier.
But Schumacher is out. So Andretti has made his tyre stop, as we see Johnny Herbert rounding the outside of Heinz-Harald Frentzen to take 7th position, with Gerhard Berger now up into 2nd place. But Andretti's come out right behind Gerhard Berger. And it's still Alain Prost in the lead, with Jean Alesi behind Andretti. Häkkinen is up into 5th position. Fantastic race for the Lotus.
But is he going to have the reliability that they so desperately want? As Gerhard Berger comes through the first part and almost loses the Joeys Porsche there. And here we're riding on board with Alain Prost now. So what can Alain Prost do? He's going to have to see if he can keep Michael Andretti behind him. As Andretti passes Gerhard Berger into Lacombe, and he's through. So Andretti's up into second position. He's less than 4 seconds away as Johnny Herbert spin. Herbert loses the Benetton. My goodness, Johnny Herbert, he's dropped from 7th as Häkkinen's into the pits from 5th position. So it's Häkkinen into the pits, Jonathan Palmer. Yes, the Lotus team are waiting for him now, as Jean Alesi's come in as well in the Ligier. So Jean Alesi's in and Häkkinen is out once more. So it's a very clean stop there from the Lotus team. And Bernard going up into 7th position. And Prost is into the pits. Alain Prost has come into the pits, Jonathan Palmer. Yes, now Alain Prost is in. So this has been very exciting so far, as I think that Michael Andretti and Gerhard Berger might have both gone through there. And Alain Prost is still being serviced, and he's off the jack, and away he goes again. So it's a good stop on the Ligier team. So it's Andretti in the lead, and Berger's up into 2nd position, with Alain Prost in 3rd, and it's Jean Alesi in 4th. It's Heinz Harald Frentzen in 5th in the Jordan. Fantastic, as one of the Joas Porsches comes into the pits. Yes, this is a very good stop. Look at the wiping on the visor there from the chief mechanic there. And that's Gerhard Berger's stop. It was 7 seconds for his rivals for Berger. It's been slightly slow. So Andretti goes through with Nakajima into the pits as well. Andretti almost running wide there in the Eau Rouge corner. And Carl Wendlinger's losing the back end, and he spins. He pirouettes the Jordan. So Wendlinger spins out of 10th position. And that means that Derek Warwick is up into 10th with Stefano Modena in 9th, but he's into the pits. As the race leader, Michael Andretti, goes through in the Ferrari. And it's Johnny Herbert up into 7th place now. But look who's in 5th, and that's Eric Bernard. And that's Häkkinen. So Häkkinen's pulling over. Oh, disaster for Mika Häkkinen and the Lotus team there. Retiring from 8th position, with Michael Andretti still serenely in the lead. And he's 8.6 seconds ahead of Alain Prost. But there's no doubt that Alain Prost is closing him, Jonathan. Yes, Alain Prost seems to be closing the gap now. His tyres seem to be working a lot better than the Ferrari. And the gap's now 6.6 seconds. So it's going to be interesting to see if Alain Prost can manage to close the gap down anymore. Well, it is going to be interesting because Prost is only 6 seconds away from Andretti, and he is catching him hand over fist. It's 5 seconds now with Gerhard Berger in 3rd place and Jean Alesi in 4th as we ride on board with Andretti. Has he got the tyres to see him through to the end of the race, or is Alain Prost going to be able to perform miracles in the Ligier and close the gap? It's only 3.2 seconds now, and that's one of the Tyrrells. That's one of the Tyrrells passing. No, that's one of the back markers. So that was Stefano Modena. But Alain Prost, there's Prost, and he's right up behind Andretti now. Look at this, fantastic stuff. Yes, the gap's only 3.2 now. This is going to be excellent and exciting stuff as Blundell almost loses the rear end of his Lotus. But Alain Prost has now got the gap down to 1.8 seconds. The gap is only 1.8 seconds. Is there anything that Andretti can do? Or is Prost going to try and see if he can make the move into the bus stop chicane perhaps? But Andretti ran wide there. But Prost is catching. It's less than a second now, surely, as they come through Blanchimont at 185 miles an hour into the bus stop. It's hard on the brakes. Down 4 gears. Into 2nd gear as Andretti powers through the first part. He's through the 2nd part of the bus stop. And he's across. And that's out. That's Morbidelli losing it. Yes, that's at the top of Eau Rouge. That's a very dangerous spot there. I hope he hasn't damaged the car too badly. But hopefully he's going to sit there. He'll get the signal from the marshals that the track is clear. But that's a blind approach there. And the marshals are waving the yellow flag. So that's very good marshalling there from the Belgians. Very good, and I'm sure that he'll get underway very shortly. But my goodness me, my heart was in my mouth. But look at the front, it's Andretti now. He's only got 9/10 of a second gap over Alain Prost, with Gerhard Berger in 3rd. It's Jean Alesi in 4th, Herbert 5th, and still Eric Bernard in 6th in the Le Rouge Peugeot. But is he going to be able to keep it up to the end of the Grand Prix as we ride on board with Prost? I think this is coming up to the bus stop. He's through the first part, and is Alain Prost going to be able to close the gap now? But they're coming up to the back markers, so this is going to be absolutely intriguing to see if Prost is going to be able to close the gap. But it's up to 1 second now, but there's still only 3 laps left to go. Is Prost going to be able to do anything to close up the gap to Andretti? And there's Eric Bernard still going round in 6th place, and Andretti's coming up to one of the back markers there. That's one of the Jordans, I believe, and Andretti's gone through. Is Alain Prost going to be able to do anything about it, or is he going to get hemmed in? Yes, he's too far back to try anything there as Andretti goes through, so he's through nice and safely. But Alain Prost has got to get that Jordan out of the way very quickly, because he's got a lot of momentum, but he's already dropped 0.3 of a second behind him. As Alain Prost, is he going to try anything into the right-hand hairpin? He can't do anything about it there. So that's been pretty poor driving there from the Jordan, who should have had the call over the radio to pull out of the way. But Alain Prost is still trying to get through, but Briton is still blocking him. My goodness me. And that has surely wrecked any hopes that Alain Prost had of trying to catch Michael Andretti. As we see one of the Joeys going round. That's Gerhard Berger in third position. But what's going up at the front, Mr. TV Director? The gap's over 3 seconds now. It's down to 2.3, but still Alain Prost is too far back. But this is Bernard now. Is he going to go a lap down with Michael Andretti, the race leader? Coming through Blanchimont, and this is the final lap. Is Michael Andretti about to take the third consecutive win for Ferrari? Fantastic. He passes the LaRousse. He's through the first part of the bus stop. He's through the right. He's through the left. And Michael Andretti crosses the line to take his second win of the year. Michael Andretti wins a fantastic Belgian Grand Prix. Phenomenal performance with Alain Prost in second. And it's Gerhard Berger taking third as we lose the TV pictures. But there's Gerhard Berger exiting the source for the last time. But what a performance from Michael Andretti with Sean Alesi in fourth. And it's going to be Johnny Herbert in fifth with Eric Bernard in sixth. And it's Heinz-Harald Frentzen seventh. But what a drive for Michael Andretti. This was arguably the most exciting Belgian Grand Prix in many years, and the sight of Andretti claiming Ferrari's third win in as many races was a delight for the 120,000 race day crowds. With Prost claiming a fine second in his Ligier and Berger taking third, it was an unusual podium after the big guns had all endured a poor weekend. Alesi took a fine fourth in the second Ligier, ahead of the recovering Herbert in fifth, and Bernard, who claimed a single point for the much improved LaRousse Peugeot squad, in sixth. After spraying the champagne, a beaming Andretti said he hoped the win would enable him to get a fresh deal of Ferrari for next year. Prost admitted he was in shock at finishing a race for only the fifth time in 1992 and getting his third podium. Whilst down at Joeys, there was utter joy after Berger's fine drive and the 4-point turn for the first time on the podium. Elsewhere, an infuriated Mansell blamed Senna for taking him out of the race on the opening lap, whilst the Brazilian refuted the claim and expressed his own disappointment at his retirement for Ferrari. Davies admitted the title was now only 50-50 following his DNF, whilst teammate Schumacher sounded the death knell for his future at McLaren after slamming the team for his exit, and a frustrated Damon Hill admitted there was nothing he could have done to avoid his clash with the back markers. In the drivers' standings, Mansell still holds a 13-point lead over Davies, with Schumacher in third and Senna fourth, but Andretti climbs above Brundle into fifth after his second win of the year, whilst Alesi and Prost move up to seventh and eighth respectively. With both their cars failing to finish for the first time in God knows how long, Williams and McLaren are still locked together at the top of the Constructors' standings, but Ferrari are catching them in third and ahead of Benetton, Ligier, Joeys Footwork and now LaRousse. Next up is Monza, which means Ferrari, which means tens of thousands of their Tifosi fans at the place where, with no chicanes and flat out racing at over 200 miles an hour, engine power is king. Will Ferrari dominate on home soil like they did last year when Andretti won? Or will Mansell get his championship back on track and get his first win since the French Grand Prix back in July? Who will be the movers and shakers in the drivers' silly season as deals are made for next year? Only time will tell, but it promises to be another exciting instalment of what is turning into a fantastic season. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for round 13 of the 1992 Formula 1 World Championship and the Italian Grand Prix.